All right, let's take a look. This is the second part of section 1.3. The first part, they asked you to find the what? The distance, right? And we had a formula, didn't we? Didn't we have a formula? This formula needs to be memorized. All right, you may not have it memorized like as soon as you did the homework, but eventually you have to have this thing memorized. Let's write it down real quick. Watch. Distance equals big square root, and then you have a couple parentheses. I always do this first before I fill the stuff in. Okay, so I put a big square root, couple parentheses. They're both squared, plus in between. All right, go ahead, Isaiah. Say it. What's in here?
X1 X2.
Right, x1 minus x2, and then? Good, and then y1 minus y2. All right, that's all it is. So if they give you 2 points, all right, you should be able to put those in. Watch, this is your x1, this is your x2, isn't it? So whatever numbers they give you, what do? You subtract them, and then you square them. And then you take the y's, whatever points they give, whatever numbers they give you, you take the 2 y's, you subtract those from each other, you square them. Take those 2 numbers, add them up, then you take the square root, and you're done. That's all it is. All there is to it. There's a little question in the earlier class. What if you put all that stuff in there and you come out with a square root of 25? Are you going to leave the answer like that?
No.
Not when it's square root of 25. When it comes out to a perfect square means you can take the square root and it comes out to a nice whole number. Okay? If it doesn't come out to a fraction, if it comes out to a nice whole number, then write it as that nice whole number. Now, if you got the square root of like 23, you can't simplify it, right? I wouldn't even change it to a decimal. Now, you could if you wanted to, all right, but you don't have to. You could just keep it like that. Make sense? But look, don't keep it the square root of 25. What are some other numbers that are perfect squares? Square root of 81, which is what? 9. Just give me some random ones. Square root of 36, which is 6. Square root of 64, which is what? 8. Give me one more. Square root of what? 144. Okay, what's square root of 144? It's 12. And there's more of them. I'm not going to go through all those. Everybody good with that? All right, that's enough review of the distance formula. Let's go to the next thing we're going to talk about here. Let's get rid of all that. Let's go back on the road. On the road again. Who sings On the Road Again? You probably have no idea, do you? Tim McGraw. Some old country guy. He's got a beat-up guitar. He's got long hair. He puts in a ponytail sometimes. Anybody know? Johnny Cash? No. This guy's still alive. No. This guy's old. What's that? On the Road Again? Nobody knows? Willie Nelson. You ever hear of Willie Nelson? He sings On the Road Again. All right. I didn't expect you to. That's showing my age and my taste in music. All right, here we go. Watch this. What if we had, I don't know, let's say we're at the 4 mile. Let's change the numbers up a little bit. All right. 16. Let's do 16. All right. All right, what if we're at mile marker 4 and mile marker 16. Remember yesterday we want to find out how far it was to get from where we were in our car to the exit. Remember McDonald's was right here, right? Let's say McDonald's is smack dab in the middle. All right, so that's McDonald's, right? The Golden Arches. So that's McDonald's right there, and you want to get there, and you're right here at the 4 mile marker. And let's say you're talking on the phone, you got a friend that lives at the 16 mile marker. Now, instead of you traveling all the way from here to here, which would be how many miles?
16.
From here. If you're at the 4 mile marker and you're going to the 16 mile marker, that would be 12, right? It'd be 12 miles. Instead of you going 12 miles or your friend coming 12 miles to see you, you make a compromise and say, hey, there's a nice McDonald's halfway in between. Let's meet at that McDonald's. Agreed? So let's find out what mile marker that McDonald's is at if it's halfway in between. A couple ways to do it. You could say, all right, well, from here to here is 12 miles, right? So what would halfway be? It'd be 6 miles. But is it at the 6 mile marker? No. It would be 6 from here. So if you're already at the 4, how far do you have to go? You go 6, right? So you go plus 6 would give you where? It would be 10. Right. 10 would be right in the middle, wouldn't it? Because it's 6 from here and it's what? 6 from here. I'll put a minus 6 because it's 16 minus 6, right? Because you're going the other way. So you could do it that way. That's one way to do it. Here's a better way to do it, though. Think about this. I want you to think about, just take a second. Look at 4 and look at 16. What can you do? I'll tell you, there's 2 steps. What can you do with those 2 things to get 10? 2 steps. 2 steps. Not doing what we did before. I'm not saying, okay, let's find the whole distance, let's take half of it, then let's add it to this. That's 3 steps right there. I can do this in 2 steps. Just look at the numbers. Look at 4 and 16. Watch. If I had a 4 and I got a 16, what do I do with those 2 numbers in order to get, oops, not a 20. What am I doing? In order to get a 10. D, what do you think? Huh? Are you with me? What did I just say? Yeah. So tell me, 2 steps. What 2 steps can I do with those 2 numbers in order to get a 10 out of that? It's not hard. They're not real hard steps. Come on, just think about it. You can do it. Brett. Add a 4 and divide by 2. Add a 4 to what?
I got it.
All right, Blake.
You take the square root of them and add them together, and you get 6. And that's how you know.
But that doesn't give me 10.
But that's how you know how much.
But that's 2 steps, and you still didn't get 10. I went 2 steps to get 10. I went 2 steps to get 10. Come on, look at it. Come on, think a little bit. Some of you guys aren't even thinking. You're looking around, you're looking at everybody else, you're not even thinking about it. Come on, concentrate. Oh, you already had a chance. Let's say what?
I got it this time.
Okay, Blake, I'll give you
Add them
another chance.
together, and then you divide them by 2.
There you go. You got it. Look, what did you say?
I said add 4 to 16 and divide by 2.
I thought you just said add a 4.
No,
I didn't. I heard you. All I heard you say was just add a 4. That's all I heard. Sorry. If you said that, I apologize. But I thought you just said add a 4. So you add these 2 together. Look, add the 2 endpoints together. I'm getting somewhere with this, okay? There's logic to what I'm trying to get to here. You add them together and you do what? Divide by 2. Does that work? Absolutely. That'll work with any distances. Watch. If you had, I'll just do this real quick. Just give me some crazy.
16.
Okay, 16, and give me some crazy number out here. 140? Okay, I heard 140. So let's say you're at the 16-mile marker, and you're trying to go to the 140-mile marker, but you don't want to go all the way. You just want to go, what? Halfway. All right, so how could you do that? Add them together and divide by 2. That's right. So what would that be? That'd be what, 156? What's 156 divided by 2? 160 is 80. That would be 78. Is that right? Yeah. So that would be 78. So that would be halfway in between those 2. Very easy thing to do, isn't it? Just add 2 numbers, divide by 2. Basically, what are you doing? If you add 2 things together and divide by 2, you're really finding the... Yeah, you are finding the midpoint here, but I'm thinking of something else. If I gave you 2 numbers, told you add them up, divide by 2. Let's say you got a grade. Let's say you got an 86 on one test and a 95 on another test. Right, you find the average, right? You add them up, divide by 2, you find the average between the 2, correct? D, put your hand down unless you have a question. Do you have a question or you just, okay, because I can't tell if you're asking something or not. Just keep your hands down, all right? That would help me out a lot. So, yeah, it's kind of like finding the average, isn't it? So finding the midpoint is kind of like finding the average between those 2, if you want to think of it that way. All right, I didn't even say that to the other class. It just popped in my head, and it's kind of a nice way to do it. All right, you with me on that? What if you weren't on a mile marker kind of thing, but let's just say you had a number line. What if you were at -7 and you wanted to go to 11? All right, what's halfway in between? That might not be quite as easy as what the other ones are to do in your head. What is it? Is it 9? Is 9 halfway in between?
Add them up.
It's not, this is a -7. This is not a +7. This is -7. What is it? Is it 4?
No, it's 2.
Why? Blake, tell me how you got that.
And it's 4. Divide by 2.
That's right. Add them up and do what? Divide by 2. Don't just add them up. Add them up and divide by 2. So -7 plus 11 is 4. Divided by 2 is what? 2. So what's the halfway point? It's at 2, isn't it? All right, so you can do that with negative numbers and positive numbers, couldn't you? All right, it's easy, isn't it? Finding the midpoint. All right, now look, you know how to find the midpoint across. Let's just do it in general, though. Let's say, instead of actually calling it a number, remember we did this yesterday with distance? Let's call this x1. What about this point right here? What do you think we'll call that? x2, good. I'll put a little dot here. Now, what's the halfway point? It'd be what? x1 plus x2, what? Divided by 2. Okay, that's the halfway point. Now, instead, I've been saying halfway point, and I said in the middle and all that. We don't really say that in math. We say this point that's in the middle is called the, say it, Isaiah. It's called the midpoint. All right, so that's more of a math way of saying it. Instead of saying halfway, or even instead of saying in the middle, we say it's the midpoint because it's a point. You with me? Now that's horizontally. Let me try to squeeze this in before I change screens here. What if we had vertical? What would I call this point up top here? Yeah, let's call it y1. This one down here, we'll call it y2. If I want to find the midpoint, okay, or the halfway, exactly. If I want to find halfway in between, or the midpoint, what do I do with those two numbers right there? You got it. y1 plus y2, you add them together, and you divide by 2. That's how you find the midpoint. You have your visa? All right, let's pause this because I'm going to do this. We kind of did this yesterday. Remember doing that for distance? We talked about the distance horizontally. Then we talked about the distance vertically. And then what did we do? Then we said, okay, we know how to find it horizontally and vertical. Put them both together, which is kind of like a diagonal line, right? That's exactly what we're going to do. But let's do this on the next, whatever you call this, YouTube.